Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 52 units of real estate. So I had a great question in the comments as to what my thoughts are on negative cash flow real estate and if I own any myself and is it worth it to sell if you built up a lot of high equity. So for me, I obviously live in California, which is a high cost of living state. So a lot of real estate single family homes I bought, they're cash flow neutral, I would say, despite me self managing. If I had my own property manager, I'd be cash flow negative. And California is more of an appreciation market versus a cash flow market. So, for example, my first home I bought in 2017 is I bought for about $800,000. Today it's worth about $1.3 million. So that's $500,000 of equity that I built up over the past 7 years. But this property only rents out for about $4,100. And my break even is essentially, I think, $4,000. So I cash flow $100 a month, but not really. It's not really cash flow because if I have one repair, there you go, it's gone, right? But I have $100 a month. Let's just call it break even, and I'm self managing. If I had to pay a property manager, 5% or 7%, then I would be cash flow negative on this deal. So yeah, I mean, I own it. It's breaking even and it has high equity. So the smart move would to be is to sell this, 1031 exchange this, and then trade up to like a cash flowing apartment complex, right? Where I could use that, $500,000 of equity, plus the down payment I put in, plus the principal pay down. So, it might be close to like 800,000 total. Use that $800,000 to go buy a $2.5 million apartment complex that may gross, more money. So, that's kind of like my thought process. Like that'd be a way to boost my cash flow, right? But then I have to be able to find a property, deal with a 1031 exchange, and do this within about a 6-month period. So for me, that's an option for me. Or I could sell this property, take the $800,000, maybe $700,000 after tax, and pay off my primary residence, which is an option for me as well. I can wipe out my mortgage. So it just gives you flexibility. So as is, it's like I call it cash flow neutral. It appreciates a lot, and it's like a piggy bank. So if you think it's the peak, if you think it's a good time to sell, or you have a good apartment complex that you can 1031 exchanges into, then maybe it'll make sense to sell it and move on from it, right? So that's just kind of my thoughts, and that's what I'm probably gonna do too personally, because it's like cash flow neutral, so I don't really make money from it, but it's more of appreciation. If you think you're at the peak, you think it's a good time to sell. Maybe you want to pay off your primary residence. Maybe you want to 1031 exchange into apartments. I think it would make sense to sell, right? So for me, I'm just waiting for the right apartment complex deal, and I'm waiting for interest rates to trend down in the right direction before I consider 1031 exchanging and trading up to an apartment complex that will gross more in rents. Like it'll probably gross, I would say, at least 20,000 in rents, and versus 4,000, which I'm getting right now. So I do own cash flow negative real estate because I did a huge cash out refinance on my single family home portfolio, and I stripped out a lot of equity, and I used that equity to go buy my apartments. So my apartments make enough cash flow that it covers the negative cash flow for my single family homes. But still, like, you don't want to like have negative cash flow real estate because it's not scalable, right? Like for me, I'm not a huge fan of cash flow negative real estate. Like even though I own some, that's why I said I'm now kind of like, once you own cash flow negative real estate, you're now forced to like either sell it to 1031 exchange, or you could sell it to pay off your primary residence. But the moment you're negative cash flow, you're kind of forced to sell it because it's not sustainable to have negative cash flow real estate. Like it's okay to own cash flow negative real estate when you work a full-time W-2 or your business is doing well. But, if you want to retire, it just doesn't make sense to have cash flow negative real estate. So that's kind of my stance on it. And it's obviously not scalable, right? Like obviously there's other reasons to buy real estate. Like you could, have depreciation, but still, like I just think overall it's not good to have cash flow negative real estate. For me, I did it, I own it, and yeah, it just doesn't feel as good, right? So I would say at least cash flow neutral real estate. like break even. Maybe you put a little bit of money in there, but like you can't be like negative like a couple $100 um, a month, right? So even for me, like my collective portfolio cash flow is like about $10,000 a month, but within that has negative cash flow real estate. So in a weird way, if I were to sell my cash flow high equity, negative cash flow high equity properties, my cash flow would increase, right? Like I would increase. So like for example, if I were to sell one single family home that's cash flow negative $1,000 and use that to pay off my mortgage, my primary residence, that which is 5,500, my I would lower $6,500 a month in expense, and that'd make it easier for me to leave my W-2 job, right? So because I'm not dealing with this like my mortgage as well as this negative cash flow real estate. So to kind of answer your question, to the viewer who asked a question, like it just really depends, right? You have a cash flow negative property, it's high equity. So my first question is, well, if you want to retire early and you have a primary residence and you have a mortgage, I would sell that, pay off your primary residence. Now you own it free and clear. And now you don't have to work. You can retire early or you can pursue other business ventures, whatever it looks like. That's one option. Or you could buy an apartment complex, right? You could take that property, 1031 exchange that into an apartment complex that grosses more income, that you could fix up, that you could increase the rents, and you could increase the value, right? And I guess in Canada, there's no 30-year fixed loans. So like for me, I'm fixed 30 years for like a sub 4%. But I guess in Canada, it's not 30-year fixed. I'm not sure if it's offered or not, but it's not as desirable. So if you think you have a good price and maybe you lived in it for like a few years, like in America, if it was your primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years, you could write off $250,000 of capital gains, or up to $500,000 if you're married. So that's another advantage, right? Where you can sell it, just get it tax free, and you can do whatever you want the money. You could buy more real estate. You could do index funds. You could pay off your primary residence. So I really said it really depends, and it's a really personal decision that you have to make. So are you willing to get rid of this cash flow negative property, trade up for something more positive cash flow, and continue to scale? Because like I said, you cannot scale a portfolio where you're buying negative cash flow real estate. Like if I were to buy a property in California right now, with like 10% down, I try to house hack it, and then eventually move out of it and rent out the whole house, it'd be cash flow negative. Like my current house, if I were to move out of this house and try to rent it out, and my all-in cost is $7,500 a month, there's no way I can rent this house for $7,500 a month, right? So I'd be cash flow negative. So if I ever moved out of this house, I'd be forced to sell essentially, right? But my intent is to live here for at least 10 to 15 years, or maybe for the rest of my life. But I'm in this for the long haul. So because I know that if I were to leave, I can't rent it out. I won't cash flow. So even the new construction burrs in Huntsville, Alabama, like it if I put 25% down at these interest rates, they don't really cash flow, right? They might break even or be slightly negative. So unless I'm getting like a tax benefit from it, like it's hard to justify buying like even cash flow neutral properties out of state, unless you just have that much capital that you want to shelter. So, summary is, I would consider selling it if you want to pay off your primary residence and retire, or if you want to trade up to an apartment complex. Otherwise, if maybe you think the market's going to go up, if interest rates drop, the value of that home's probably going to go up, right? That's kind of the trend, because I think housing prices have kind of stagnated, at least for a single family. So, but once interest rates start to trend down towards 5, I think prices are going to go up again because the real estate market's going to be active again. So, that's kind of my 2 cents in this. And, for me, that's what makes it hard for me too, is like, I think the fact that I have like sub 4% interest rates, and even though they're like cash flow neutral or positive or negative, I'm not motivated to sell them because like interest rates are so high now. But if interest rates are lower, I'd probably be more motivated to like sell it, 1031 exchange it into like an apartment that I would buy. But because interest rates are so high, I'm kind of more on the sideline, just waiting for interest rates to drop, unless I do creative financing, right? That's another option, but I'm not actively looking for deals because of that. But like I said, I could easily, if cash interest rates were like 4%, I could sell one property in California, buy like 8 of them in Huntsville, Alabama, and if they're cash flowing $200, $300 a month times 8, that's $2,400 a month in cash flow. And now I have, 10 different properties or 8 properties that are appreciating over time. You have principal pay down over time, and that's how you compound, that's how you leverage. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. Hopefully this answers your question. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're interested in buying multifamily real estate with some guidance, some mentorship, check out the link down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.